of extraterrestrial
A
origin.
large, hairy creature with arms that hang down beside its, bore down on its sides.
On the heavens. And I told him my name, and when I told him the name, he said he was called Code.
It is not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of.
You're listening to the Strangeology podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Foran, and this is your place to explore the weird, strange, and unexplained. From cryptids and creatures, the paranormal, aliens and UFOs, forbidden knowledge, ancient mysteries, conspiracies, and more. All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me as I've had a couple weeks off from the show. It wasn't my intention to have it go on this long between episodes. If you've been listening for a while, you know that this year, 2025, has been the year of renovations at Strangeology HQ. There's been a ton going on with that over the last few weeks. I'll spare you all the minutia and the details of that, and I just haven't had the time to focus on editing new episodes. That and also not having the usual summertime help that we've had in the past with my oldest kiddo during summer vacation, which was supposed to be all set up, and then our help bailed out the last minute. So it's daddy daycare over at Strangeology HQ most days of the week, but thankfully we've got some family members helping out a little bit here and there. But having, one full day a week and then late nights and losing sleep doesn't leave much time to get everything done, unfortunately. So if you've been wondering why I haven't been releasing new episodes and content as often as I usually do, that's largely the reason why. And I'm doing my best out here to keep things going as regularly as possible. So thank you for bearing with me on that. But anyway, again, thank you for your patience. And I'm back with a brand new episode today. This is going to be the first in a short series of 6 episodes that I'm going to try to get out every other week, featuring my interviews that I conducted at Contact in the Desert back at the end of May and early June. Be forewarned, though, that the audio quality in these interviews is not going to be the same usual crisp quality that I strive for with this show. The media rooms that we were allotted had high ceilings and no sound treatment at all. I had all my best gear with me, and I did my best to clean up the audio in post-production. Most of these episodes as well are going to be shorter than the usual length of about an hour 15 minutes. These ones are going to be probably more about 40 to 45 minutes, as I was given 2 hours. 2-hour time blocks. They had 1-hour time blocks. I did back-to-back time blocks. So I had time to set up, and then I interviewed 2 different people, and then I had to break down all my gear and leave before one of the other podcasts that was invited to be at Contact in the Desert came in to do their interviews and record and all that. I usually was back-to-back with last podcast on the left, so I kept running into those guys, which was funny. It was a hustle for sure. And again, I want to give a huge shout out to Mikey over at the Strange Road. He was on my last episode that I released a few weeks back, and he's such an awesome dude and helped out with some video capture for a number of the interviews, which you'll be able to see on the YouTube channel. And also, again, big thanks to Easton for being my ride or die for the whole event, manning the merch table for me and just helping out and just being a total dude. And also another quick note, Strangeology Beyond will be a bit sporadic for the coming weeks due to everything going on. I'm hoping to be able to put some new bonus episodes together, some research stuff for members soon. As far as the Contact in the Desert interviews, since I only had a limited time with each guest, I didn't have time to do the extended interviews that I normally do, except for one of the guests that's coming up, which was an absolutely wild interview that went way over time because his interview happened during the last media room slot of the day. So I had the room until whenever. I think it was from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. And we wound up going like an hour over. So I'm probably going to be breaking that one up into 2 sections as well. So definitely look forward to that one. Now, before we get started here, make sure to give Strangeology a follow over on all of my social media accounts or whatever one's your favorite. I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm still able to get a couple short videos up and out every week, usually. So if you're missing content from me, you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, etc. As always, the links for that are in the show notes. And just a few more front of the house things. I know I've been usually saving this for the end of the show recently, but I wanted to get this out now. Mark your calendars if you haven't yet for Squonkapalooza number 3. It's happening on August 2nd in Johnstown, Pennsylvania from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This year, it's happening at a venue called Bottleworks, which you can find on 411 3rd Avenue in downtown Johnstown. And I'm going to be vending there again. Last year was super fun, and I'm stoked for this year. I'll be hanging out, slinging merch. I just did a really fun new Squonk t-shirt design. It's one I've been wanting to do forever, and I was like, okay, I got to give myself the time to do this, and I'm pretty stoked about it. And it's part of my Cryptid Encounters merch series. If you're familiar with my Fresno Nightcrawler, Everybody Gangsta Till the Pants Start Walking shirt design, or my Mothman Harbinger of Doom, which you can grab over on my shop, along with tons of other merch as well if you want to support the show. Very appreciated as always. I also just got confirmation that I'm going to be vending again at the Whitehall Sasquatch Calling Festival and Contest again in September in Skeensboro Park, right on the river. It's happening on September 27th, and this is going to be my 4th year vending. It's the best event that I do. There's tons of different vendors, artists, food trucks, speakers, and the calling contest at the end of the day, where everyone gives their best go at making a Bigfoot call. It goes from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and it's always such a blast. And I always have people coming back every year to my tent, and they're always super excited for me to be there. So I'll be there again. And everyone who comes out there, thank you so much for always stopping by and saying hello. Every year I've done it as well. The weather's been perfect and beautiful sunny day. So knock on wood that it's nice again. Sometimes the fall can be a little hard to predict, but hey, we're always out there. This year, I decided to reserve 2 spots as well because I'm always so crammed in my spot with all the merch I bring. So that's going to be a little bit of a new dynamic. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely check that out. There'll be more details over on Strangeology.com. So check it out. And if you can also leave a 5-star review of the show wherever you're listening to it, it's super helpful to push the show out and so appreciated for everyone out there who likes the Strangeology podcast. All right, without further ado and updates, let's just get into this now. This is the first Contact in the Desert interview that I did with authors and researchers JJ and Desiree Hurtak, which we're going to be getting into the connection between giants, the Nephilim, and aliens. It's a wild ride, so buckle up. All right, welcome to the show, everyone. We're live here from Contact in the Desert, Podcast in the Desert 2025. Today, I have some really special guests with me. We've got doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak, who are pioneering researchers, authors, and scientists whose work spans the realms of ancient wisdom, advanced science, consciousness studies. They've got their book, the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, which I'm really, really excited to hear about today. And this is going to be great. We're going to get into some profound bridges into sacred traditions, giants, everything here. So without further ado here, I'm going to turn the floor over to you guys.
Well, thank you. We're honored to be here with you. And besides the titles that you just mentioned, we're social scientists, which means that we've got background in linguistics, archeology, paraphysics, and what is also known as remote sensing technology. That is the ability to use radar as well as lasers and looking underneath the Earth at distant planets through remote viewing technology and mental abilities. So we bring together 40 plus years of research.
But we're here at Contact in the Desert, and our talk, which is going to be tomorrow morning, is about giants and how they relate to extraterrestrials. Because, people talk about spaceships flying around, but what happened in the past? I mean, did they ever come here like thousands and thousands of years ago? The Keys of Enoch you mentioned talk about the root races. I mean, we all know we had dinosaurs on the planet. Where did they come from? Well, our cosmology totally turns things upside down. It says many of these beings came from, we'll say, outer space. In fact, if you look at extraterrestrials' contact today, and we'll talk about some of that, some of them, of course, are grays, they're popular, whatever else, reptilians. Okay, maybe they're an offshoot of the dinosaurs, who knows? But also, some of them look like us. So that means we probably didn't evolve exclusively here. And that's our cosmology. That's the cosmology of the Keys of Enoch.
We know that your working title, Jeff, is Weirdness.
Strangeology.
Strangeology. But if you have higher knowledge and discovery, it turns into futurism. Because you demythologize myths, you begin to find that there are giants of the mind and there are giants of the human anatomy. And so our work has taken us around the world. We've been privileged to be in Egypt back in the 1990s, where the use of information through ground-penetrating radar and acoustical vibrations, we were able to find what is called the Tomb of Osiris in 1997, 2 years before the Egyptians, Desiree Hurtak, addressed it on Fox television. Because we were Americans, we were basically unknown. We were sort of pushed out of the picture, but now the new generation of Egyptologists is recognizing we found this tomb. And we also found artifacts that depict giant figures that were once there in ancient Egyptian times.
So there's the colossi and things like that all over the Middle East. And were they really just made that way because they wanted to be bigger than us when they constructed it? Or were these beings really in existence? So if we turn to the Bible, I think we'd like to start there. Genesis 6. It talks about the Nephilim and some of the other beings. And it says that these kind of beings had relations with the daughters, I like to be the one talking about this, of men. Now, if you take that in literal sense and looking at abductions that have come out of extraterrestrial experiences, and then go back not to the Keys of Enoch, which is Dr. Hurtak's contemporary book, that actually I did some of the illustrations and things in that, but to the ancient Book of Enoch, which is alluded to in some text, but also is well known in terms of, you can find it online. The Charles edition is what we really like. And you go also to what they're talking about. The Book of Enoch gives the explanation for the fact of the giants being here and how they got wiped out.
But keep in mind that the Bible in Western European civilization was pretty much the lead source of historic information. Most people consider it pure mythology, but there are strains of information that we'll discuss. And the Bible has in the New Testament book of Jude a reference to the ancient book of Enoch. And I'm going to read a section from chapter 7 of the ancient book of
Enoch, yeah.
And all the others together with them took, this is now the Nephilim, the fallen angels. Programmers.
Yeah, specific.
Unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go into them and defile themselves with them, namely they had sex, and they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, namely with the ability of genetic manipulation of plants. And became pregnant, namely the humans, and they bare great giants. whose height was 3,000 elves, which would be between 25 and 30 feet.
Well, actually, when you really get down to it, it could have been even as big as mountains because people can't really define elves so well. But basically, what we found from going out around the world, working with our associate Klaus Dona, especially in Ecuador, has been the bones of a giant that is
25 feet high.
If you construct
this was in Ecuador.
In Ecuador,
so
Ecuador.
Before we get to the point, in my experience with Enoch, which was a angelic, you would call, paraphysical entity that appeared to me in 1973, I was shown a map of the world and where ancient civilizations existed and where things would be found. And I was shown specifically on a map that was shown me mentally that in East Africa, there would be the finding of a huge footprint. And as it turned out, in the 1980s, I was in South Africa lecturing, and I was able to find this footprint, which then I took pictures of. I gave to Klaus Dona and serious anthropologists, archaeologists who later met in Vienna in the year 2000 at a Forbidden Archaeology conference. I didn't know at that time that that picture was of the footprint, which was very massive, was taken and juxtaposed next to the bones of a giant.
That were reconstructed from that.
Reconstructed from bones found in Ecuador on the other side of the world.
25 feet tall. So if you
and in the Keys of Enoch, there's a map that shows specifically where 12 ancient civilizations existed. And finding this map, and I've shown this with scholars throughout the world, there has been a validation of not only the finding of ancient historical places, but also the areas where ancient civilizations momentarily gave birth to human experiments.
Right. So this footprint that Dr. Hurtak's talking about is from an area in South Africa called Mpumalanga. And actually, if you go up in this map that many of you probably could not see, the Great Pyramid itself is on a line that's 31 degrees, 9 minutes east. And if you go down all the way right from the top of Africa to almost the bottom of Africa, which is a long ways,
you will discover, as I did, this footprint over 1.5 meters long.
It's at 30 degrees east, which is only 60 miles separate from where the Great Pyramid would be from that long distance. So it's amazing. And of course, you have things like Adam's calendar.
So this was examined by my colleagues at the University of South Africa. This picture was taken here. You see my body.
Yeah, that footprint's
it's
almost as tall as you are.
And
it's gigantic.
And needless to say, the archaeologists and anthropologists were amazed. And then you see it juxtaposed next to this large skeletal form that's over 25 feet high.
And that's how big that being would have to be for a footprint that size.
Yeah.
I did not know this, but this was on exhibit at Van Daniken's museum in Interlaken, Switzerland.
Which is where this is.
For 20 years, I was not aware that I was the only human being that was pictured.
Really?
Gigantic in the skeletal form, it was re-engineered, and the gigantic footprint that was found in South Africa. So what I'm saying here is the being that appeared to me paraphysically in 1973 gave me an accurate reading on where I was to go, take a picture, how this story was going to unfold, and match it. Ideal giants, quote unquote, of the past. So at one time, the conditions of Mother Earth were such, perhaps because the atmosphere was thinner, the plants grew larger, prehistoric animals grew larger, and humans also.
Or maybe they had some other root race connection. So, Jeff, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, on my show, I've looked into the idea of ancient giants, Nephilim, before, and it seems like something was going on. And you just mentioned in the ancient past, we had megafauna and all of this, and they all died out around 12,000, 13,000 years ago. And we have all these legends in different cultures all across the planet of these giant humanoid beings that would, eat us, attack us. And it seems like humans banded together at some point to maybe take
interesting.
control of the situation.
Well, actually, what it says, and that's why we want to go back to the ancient Book of Enoch, and again, you can find it on the internet. It says, they saw all this stuff. It's almost like what we're doing right now to the planet, of how, it's so destructive. If you put too many elephants in one place, they'll just, eat everything that there is. And that's what seemed to be happening with all these giants. And so chapter 9 of the Book of Enoch says, and then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, which are archangels, that we all know about, looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed on the earth and the lawlessness being brought upon the earth, so that they complained. And actually what this says, which is not in the Bible, but what the Book of Enoch says, is that's why the flood occurred.
Wipe out the hybrids.
So first of all, they also said one other thing, and that's the name Semyaza, who was one of the fallen angels. And if you remember the Billy Meyer case, and we don't want to say, too many bad things about it. I do think things really, he saw something.
In Switzerland.
Yeah. But that it says, and Semyaza, to whom thou hast cast authority to bear rule over his associates, that was one of the negative beings that was there. So controlling some of these, we'll say, abductions, or, abduction, we always think, you came down and you took beings up there. But
so even though ancient literature uses the word angel, in the Greek it means really emissary, being from another dimension. We could also think of these beings as programmers or cosmic scientists. They were carrying out experiments with what they would call the Earth habitat to see whether or not different levels of intelligence could be created. So in this map that I was talking about, that Desiree just alluded to, there's also a line that is from the longitudinal north that goes also through Indonesia, in the area of the island of Flores. And this is interesting because although this is on the other side of the planet, specifically, this demarcation of 21 degrees, 27 minutes east was the area specifically on the island of Flores that was the site of the finding of what we would call the hobbits.
Right.
Homo floresiensis. By
you can say
Australian,
that well.
Indonesian, and European anthropologists. So we were able to be part of this expedition and the assembly of this information. And this map in the Keys of Enoch shows thus the miniature hobbits on one side and the giants on the other. No other book in the world has this. This book also speaks of the year 2004 is significant for scientific validation of the presence of extraterrestrials. 2004 came and went, but then in the year 2017, the Pentagon released information that in the year 2004 off San Diego, the Nimitz, and the Mexican government released information in 2004 that off Yucatan Peninsula they saw hundreds of spaceships. So the Keys of Enoch, which I authored as a result of inspiration from this being of light, is accurate. All 64 keys, of which something like 63 to date have been validated. What's the 64th? I believe was the coming of cosmic intelligence at the time. The mystery, the weirdness, what I will call the ignorance of the past will be removed, and we will suddenly realize, yes, we're surrounded by a variety of cosmic life forms, from small to huge. And this would tie into what Major Paul Smith has presented at this conference, dealing with these huge vehicles that have come out of the ocean, twice the size of aircraft carriers. Well, who are the beings on these giant-like individuals?
Well, of course, yeah. There's a wide variety of life forms, and I think that's what this whole conference of Contact in the Desert is all about, because basically, we're not just the only ones, and the weird looking guys aren't the only ones. There's different races that have been here in the past and are here now. I'd like to go on just a little bit more, though, with chapter 10 of the ancient Book of Enoch, and it says, when they complained about what was going on the earth, then it says that God said and sent Uriel and said, go to Noah and tell them to hide themselves because the whole earth is going to be destroyed. So what does that really mean? It actually means that they were going to go back to the original genetic code and get rid of what had happened on this planet. So this is an interesting thing. We actually feel that our genetic code, and this is something Linda Moulton Howe started to talk about too,
Sure.
that we have a higher consciousness because of who we are.
Yeah.
And we've been protected for the last, even now, 6,000, 10,000 years since the last flood, from this happening again. I mean, yes, there have been abductions, but it's not like they're coming here and having relations. They're actually taking a few people up with them. And we had another friend of ours. His name was Virgil Armstrong. He used to lecture at a lot of these conferences. He wrote a book, They Need Us, We Don't Need Them. I think it's an interesting connection. Now, we don't think that every extraterrestrial is negative, because some of them are really helping us. They're protecting us. They're watching us. They're trying to tell us to be anti-nuclear, which we all should be, and get rid of the nuclear weapons and even the nuclear power plants.
Virgil illustrates in his book what I did in one of my other books entitled Extraterrestrial Retrievals, where I actually show pictures that I received from Russian scientists that I knew of space beings that had crashed into their country.
Okay.
You see here.
Yeah.
So we have tangible evidence of the hobbits or the dwarf type life forms, as well as the giants. No big thing. We just have to change our biology or genetics, and the Keys of Enoch is a textbook for the future. We are told, for example, in key 204, and here we see a picture of the giants and the small people side by side. The keys to the sons of light is given in the transmissions of living energy codes from the people of God. They are sent from living universe to living universe to reveal the codes of light, capital L, meaning superluminal light, to the orders of evolving species within cellular time, so that the coded nucleic membranes, that is that which is the building block of life within us, may attach with the larger membrane or the form of universes.
Now, why are we unique in the universe? Again, we're not unique because you can find some of us on the Pleiades and Sirius, even connected with Orion. But if you go back, and we go back really to the Bible, to the fact that we at first did not have garments of skin. So we have a higher soul reality, and then we took on this reality to be here. And that's why, in a certain sense, we're kind of innocent to understand the cosmology that's around us. And so this planet in the past, according to the ancient Book of Enoch, which we also feel is valid, really, we got defiled in that sense. And as a woman, I can say that. And so it's important to go back to our original genetic code, which also exists in the universe. And I think that's why, in a certain sense, that they're abducting certain people, not only just to check them out, medical experiments and things like that. And we just were listening to Alexis Brooks here, and she was talking about Betty and Barney Hill. But in actuality, in addition to that, they want some of what we have. And even if they're just cloning themselves, there's something called genetic fatigue. We see it in plants. We see it in certain things, even on this planet. And I think ultimately that these aliens, some of which are having genetic fatigue. I don't know if you've ever followed Dan Burrish, who supposedly was at Area 51.
Is a microbiologist.
I haven't actually.
He's fabulous, but the being he saw actually wanted our help, and he was a biologist, microbiologist, and that's why he had worked with this being. The being had neuropathy. He could hardly move.
Wow.
And even though he could fly in a flying saucer and come here, he wasn't in good shape. So they wanted what we had, like the enzymes. And now even Whitley Strieber and Linda Moulton Howe are talking about cattle mutilation, or not just,
So we're
because
talking about evidence. It's one thing to speculate and say, "Oh, that's just your idea. That's just your science fiction." No, we are serious scientists with serious credentials. We've gone out to do the field work, to make the findings, to do the photography, to talk to the think tanks. And of course, most of this has been top secret and beyond. So we're sharing with you, which we've been permitted to, because this is from other countries, another perspective, that we're living in a much larger genetic gene pool of evolution than we think. And we as human beings have to grow up and realize what the indigenous know, the Native Americans, who are also in their Kachina dolls, in their artifacts and art forms, depict the small people and the giant people. We're sort of in between.
But let me also say, on behalf of aliens and extraterrestrials, we feel that they're just like us. Some are very enlightened. Some are very helpful. Some are really trying to protect us. And then some are not. Some are trying to use us in a certain sense. So we have to start growing in our cosmology before we reach out and have first contact to understand who we are. Jeff, how do you feel about some of this?
Yeah, well, I'm wondering, you mentioned the higher self, right? That we come into this reality. Do some of these other beings operate in this, interdimensional field or a higher reality? Is that where they're coming from?
Well, we do feel a lot of extraterrestrials are really functioning in the fifth dimension, and they're often come into the third, and that's why they can take people out of their bedrooms through walls, because they're taking them through these other dimensional doorways that they create.
Third dimension is we're here with the laws of physics defined that we cannot go beyond the speed of light. We cannot go into other dimensions. When you speak about the fifth or sixth dimensions like we're doing now, we're talking about higher consciousness physics and higher information sources to which we could quickly assimilate knowledge. And so we say, enter into another dimension or timeline. The keys of Enoch explain this in key 202 as a genetic God code or divine code to which under certain conditions, our body can expand through scalar physics. In other words, we can be projected into much larger forms or diminished into smaller forms.
Well, remember, if you go back to the Bible, and I know a lot of people just cast it out, but basically it has a lot of information in Genesis. And it said that we were caretakers of the tree of life creation. We weren't supposed to eat of this particular tree of duality, and we decided to, so we came here. And we ended up in bodies of skin. So we do have a higher relationship, we think, with our higher self. We've written a book called Over Self Awakening, and all of these books are preferably available on our website called keysofenoch.org. We don't recommend going to Amazon. We don't sell actually the Keys of Enoch on Amazon. But bottom line on all this, some beings, especially those that are with us and those that are more enlightened, have that higher divine dimension, because we feel that we can go not only from this local universe, and this is just one of many, this is what the Keys of Enoch talk about, but into other higher realities, because we have that higher consciousness. A lot of the extraterrestrials are localized. And they also, as Linda Moultonhouse starting to talk about, they want our soul. They want our capacity that they don't have. Even some other government people have talked about how the aliens are here asking us for help to understand the nature of the universe. I mean, why us? We're stuck on a planet.
Yeah,
but maybe
we're still
they
type
know.
0 civilization.
But we have that higher consciousness, and that's why part of our work is on remote viewing, to be able to see.
So we bring together forbidden archeology and forbidden cosmology.
Yeah.
The small to the large, the human terrestrial to the extraterrestrial, even to the extracelestial. The fact that we're going beyond the boundaries of historic planetary science. And this is an exciting time to be alive. I will simply say, for those who do not have the keys, this may seem like it's all Greek or Chinese, but you understand when you get the Keys of Enoch that there are functional diagrams, and we have a plethora of film documentaries on our website to go with what we're saying.
And I also just want to put a plug in for a book that is going to be talked about here at the conference, and that's Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. Dr. Hurtaks mentioned in terms of Arcturus. And we're in a film that was recently made by this. This is originally from MUFON. So they took all their cases and they ended up giving it to our associate Craig Campobasso and put it together in this book. It's mostly black and white pictures. But what's really interesting is that there's over 80 extraterrestrial species.
Yes. I have a copy back home, and it's great to read through. There's so much information in there about all of these different species. And certainly, as you mentioned, a lot of them seem to be benevolent, and they come around and try to help us evolve up to the next level.
So the fear has to be understood as a historic metaphor. We're being given new knowledge. A quantum change is taking place. I believe we're going to go from humankind to spacekind. That we're going to wake up, smell the coffee, and realize, we have an opportunity with our cosmic counterparts to see we're part of a divine family.
Yeah.
And thus the religious metaphors and scientific nuances will come together. We'll have a type of what we call divine science or spiritual sciences. It was taught in ancient India and Egypt.
Sure, yeah.
And what is important here, though, for everyone to know is we have the documentation in genetics, documentation in the use of music and physical acoustics.
Documentation in archeology. Actually, Dr. Hurtak in his experience was shown that 64 areas of science would take a quantum leap. He had this experience in the 70s, and many of these things are manifesting right now. So we know as older people, used to think, well, we were just around for 6,000 years, something happened and we, manifested. Now we know we go back probably 50,000, if not 100,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
For Homo sapiens sapiens.
Right.
That is human that can think and create through language, conceptual tools. So this is really what we want to explain to people, that there is a functional blueprint called the Keys of Enoch, coming from the same source of the historic Enoch, through a higher cosmic intelligence that is telling us we have a divine birthright, that we are destined to leave this planet and move into the greater cosmos, that evolution doesn't stop with our planet. Our concept of death and finality is to be understood in terms of only one phase of the evolutionary process, which is an infinite process that goes into different life systems, different levels, different dimensions.
Well, what I like to say for young people is we're all here now, because this is going to be the time of first contact. It's an amazing thing. And I think that's why there's 8 billion people coming to this planet to get this awakening, get this understanding, get this transformation. So we're all here to help evolve it.
Yeah. So you think the timeline of disclosure, first contact is really coming very soon?
We were there in 1977 at the first World Congress on UFOs in Mexico, in Acapulco, with Dr. J. Allen Hynek and the best experts. And I was one of the invited speakers. And at that time, it was speculated that there might be 50 years or so. And so we are coming into the anniversary of knowing that the disclosure window is being opened in Washington, whether it goes into a full awareness of how many different levels of cosmic intelligence there are remains to be seen. But the idea is we have to change our consciousness and realize we are fundamentally spiritual beings in human form. We are of a higher mind connected with the universal intelligence, and we are but one expression of that universal intelligence. And when we begin to assimilate what we call the Keys of Enoch, the Christ-like or the Buddha-like qualities of higher consciousness, we begin to grow up as cosmic citizens. We overcome the momentary fears and tribulations of two-dimensional and three-dimensional thought forms, that the big black bear is going to bite off our head, or we're going to be locked into a closet of darkness forever. We begin to realize that there's a life potential that we have that is released, that's assimilated, that's used. And this is what is the definition of the master teachers of the universe. The Keys of Enoch abound. And they tell us that God's plan has no end. It is life in the house of many mansions. So Desiree, what does that mean? Right.
Well, basically, going back to the many extraterrestrial species, the good guys that you were talking about, Jeff, actually say we're not prepared. They don't want us with our war toys going up into space. I mean, a lot of our history has been war and destruction. So we've got to evolve out of that. We've got to shift. We've got to change. That's number one. And the other guys actually are happy to keep us here so that we don't discover our higher nature. We don't discover who we truly are. In fact, the Varginha case, which is a famous case down in Brazil, actually, one of the aliens who this doctor was trying to save sent a message to the doctor saying, it's very sad. You don't know who you really are. So that's really what we're starting to discover, but we've got to make some changes on this planet first, or they're coming anyway at a certain time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, why would like the more, maybe not malevolent, but the less benevolent species, why would they not want us to, what are they trying to take from us?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, we're looking at, recently, Whitley Strieber was doing some things with the understanding of cattle mutilation with Linda Moulton Howe, and there's a copper in our system and in the cow system that perhaps can be used for these alien intelligences. So it helps them. But I think overall, what this is really saying about going back to the ancient Book of Enoch is that we have been protected somewhat, not 100%, because, people are abducted and things like that. But we have had some level of protection to allow us to evolve, to allow us to grow. And we can reach to higher levels of intelligence, but some of the negative, it's still positive.
So the governments,
Yeah.
particularly the United States, was, I believe, correct in withholding information early on, because when you have human subjects subject to strange experiments where their precious bodily fluids are being taken and they interchange with other genetic possibilities, this gives rise to hybridization that might be out of control.
Right. And we always thought, back in, you probably remember the early days, they said, well, it's going to be for the survival of our species, right? That's why they're hybridizing us in case something happens to us, we get to go on. Well, now that's starting to be shifted around. We're helping them to go on. So It's a whole different reality. And of course, there's multiple possibilities. If you got 80 plus extraterrestrial races, there's many agendas. And this is also why disclosure is not happening.
But there's a good side to all of this. And this is in another book that we wrote called The Scrolls of Adam and Eve, which is an ancient scroll that goes back almost 2,000 years. The Adam and Eve story that's expanded through what is called the Merkaba, or the vehicle of visitation. And in this, I go through the different stages of awareness of what the Adam and Eve story illustrates: a rebellion in the heavens, that the cosmic forces did not like the fact that the human race was created, and therefore they conspired to block us according to this ancient text. But we are a continuation of the Adam and Eve story in interspecies communication. For example, Adam was told that he and Eve, his counterpart, could name the animals. Well, that's a clue to genetic language, species categorization.
Yeah.
So we have retranslated the whole Bible from the standpoint of higher genetics, higher physics, higher cosmology. And when you look at the original language in Hebrew Aramaic, you realize it's a fantastic teaching of the tree of life, the tree representing the many cosmic civilizations.
Yeah.
Being one that's being nurtured by our spiritual endowments, that we're essentially, as I said before, spiritual or universal beings of consciousness in human form.
But we do exist in duality. We chose it. And so every moment is a moment of choice. So it's all up to us to choose, peacefulness, choose love, choose higher wisdom, rather than, selfishness and all the other
So this is the time of extraterrestrial retrievals. We're being shocked by the specimens being found in Africa, in China, in South America. At the same time as the age of Steven Spielberg, it's the age of cosmic synthesis. We're coming into awareness that, no, we're not going to be doomed to oblivion. We're being awakened by our cosmic counterparts. They're teaching us, they're giving us. Why would we have all this knowledge? Why would Desiree and I have the ability to go under the ocean off the Azores and find artifacts? Why would we have the ability to go under Egypt with radar and find the tomb of Osiris? Why would we have the opportunity to work with leading anthropologists and psychologists unless we were to break out of the false mythology of weirdness, or we would call mythical interpretation, into the real story? So this is the get up and go signal that you represent in your program.
Yeah.
We have to all join hands, join spirits, and realize we have a cosmic destiny in space. We are the continuation of the Adam and Eve story. I'll say it again. We are the continuation of the Adam and Eve story. We are Adamics. We are multidimensional. We're multiphysical in our knowledge. And we're cosmic family.
And that's whether we're male or female. We're Adamic species and we exist in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got all this, information coming out, congressional hearings, and, even with the recent findings happening under the pyramids now with that whole thing a few months back. With the
viewing, and also what is called SAR, synthetic aperture radar. I published a couple of papers on this back in the 1980s.
And we have a book called Giza's Industrial Complex, but we've gone down 100 feet. That's where the tomb of Osiris was.
Yeah.
2,000 might be a stretch, so we'll see the proof behind that.
Sure.
But there's definitely more under the ground of Egypt than there is above.
17 kilometers underground tunnels.
Yeah.
Gigantic rooms.
Yeah.
Water hydraulics. Ancient texts in stone. This is just the beginning of a whole new Egyptology.
Right.
Everything is being demythologized, and that is why the Egyptian government has just opened a new museum, the greatest in the world. It's 2 stories larger than the Louvre in France. that shows the documentation that the ancients had skills of, for example, putting gold leaf on precious stones. We don't know how to do this.
Now, our argument is that they actually had water
Electrolysis.
hydraulics, and that not only did they use it, which people are coming out with now, to build the pyramid, but actually they used it to create energy. Because
think of water hydraulics in building the pyramids, elevation,
Yeah.
side by side, level by level, in perfect balance.
But basically, if you have water, you have sunlight, you have metals, which anodes and cathodes, which doesn't take a lot. A high school student can do it. You can produce hydrogen gas, which we all should be using today.
Yeah. I've always thought there was something behind the power plant theory for that. And it's like, well, who built all that stuff down there? And, of course, you mentioned our species has been around for up to 200,000 years. We have the same brain capacity, and if we have these other species of beings coming around, maybe they offered a lending hand or gave us some knowledge.
Right. We also don't think we
out.
evolved on this planet, actually. If you find us in Sirius, you find us in Arcturus, you find us in the Pleiades, which Dr. Hurtak talks about.
In our book, which I recommend, it's on the internet, is called Giza's Industrial Complex.
That's available.
Yeah.
We explain how the Egyptians could make massive earth batteries. They could build structures under the ground and have cathodes and anodes and actually use a conversion of salt water and natural clear water to create what I will call energy production using cotton as a filter. And of course, Egypt was a land of cotton production in ancient times. So we have found evidence of micro and macro batteries that the Egyptians used for their power sources, their light sources.
Yeah.
So you can make these passageways
100 feet down without
under the ground with
without
no
any
lights. Well, of course they had lights, but they came lights from a different direction.
Yeah, no soot on the ceilings,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always been a crazy thing to
So the
think
picture
about.
is much larger. What the New Testament tells us in the words of Christ, our father's or my father's house is a house of many mansions, which means different cosmic levels, cosmic intelligence interacting with the story of Exodus out of Egypt, which is the metaphor for, I believe, the ancient civilizations of Mother Earth going into the heavens, the story of the Exodus, the story of self-realization, unity, and spiritual and scientific courage.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very eye-opening, fascinating, and fantastic conversation with you two today. Before we wrap up, do you mind letting listeners know the best place to find all your work online, your website, all of that?
Right. So we encourage you to go to keysofenoch.org. It's in several languages. We actually have many languages. We also have things on TikTok under the Hurtaks and also Instagram under, I believe, Keys of Enoch. So we're out there on YouTube as well and most of the social media platforms.
Also Gaia, which is out of Colorado.
Yeah, Gaia TV. And we have an episode or so on Netflix connected with top secret UFO reports.
We cover all bases. And we look forward to work with you in the future, Jeff.
Absolutely.
And
we'll have
we
to have you back on
wish
sometime.
good luck to all of our listeners of this program, realizing we are citizens of the future. We're just waking up. So leave behind your fears and allow your mind and heart to open up to the divine love of the source, the divine, we will call it source, giving us the courage, giving us the vibration, the resonance that we need to connect heart, mind, compassion, life itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. All right. Thanks again to JJ and Desiree for coming on to the show, and to the folks at Contact in the Desert for helping make this interview happen. It was a really fun conversation, and it reminds me that at some point, I really got to go back and do some more deep dive research episodes into the legends of giants and all of that. But there's so much out there in this world that's still such a mystery, especially about the origins of humanity in our distant past and where we're going. I'll have their links in the show notes, of course, and definitely check out all of their stuff. But anyway, thank you again for listening to the show and hanging out today. My name's Jeff, and this is, of course, the Strangeology podcast. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone out there who checks out this show. Those of you who download it, share it with friends and family, spread it by word of mouth. It helps me out a ton when you do that. And if you're watching on YouTube, definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share the videos that I post. It helps out so much when you do that to boost it out to more people and keep this thing growing to the next level. Strangeology really wouldn't be possible without the support of people like you. To any advertisers or companies out there looking to collaborate with the Strangeology podcast, or if you are an author, researcher, experiencer, and would like to be considered for an interview on Strangeology, you can head over to strangeology.com/contact, or you can just send an email directly to info@strangeology.com. I'd love to hear about your theories or your experiences with the paranormal, the strange, the unexplained, all of it. So definitely get in touch and we'll hopefully hear from you soon. And just another reminder, of course, do give me a follow over on social media. If you're looking for more content from me in between episodes, I'm trying to be as active as possible over on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also find Strangeology on X, Threads, Substack, and Blue Sky as well, although to a lesser extent. But we're out there, we're putting the content out and looking into all this high strangeness and weirdness that we all love. So definitely give me a follow there. Links will be in the show notes. And a big shout out to new members, Juan, Matt, Allie, and Chris. Thank you all so much for signing up and supporting the show. If you'd like to support Strangeology, there's a couple things you can do. Number one, you can sign up to become a channel member on my YouTube channel for just under $5 a month, which gets you access to bonus segments of my podcast episodes, Strangeology Beyond, and they are also early and ad-free. So definitely check that out if you prefer YouTube. Number two, you can also support me by signing up to my Patreon, which you can find over at patreon.com/Strangeology, which does offer a bit more than YouTube membership. There I've got a number of different tiers. The higher the tier, the more perks get unlocked. You get early access to new episodes that are ad-free, as well as my long format video edits, which are again also ad-free. And you also gain access to the members only episode extension Strangeology Beyond, which are sometimes a whole other research topic or extended guest interviews. There's also a 30% off permanent merch discount to my shop, as well as exclusive members only merch, voting power on topics that I cover, behind the scenes content, and more. So if you want to join a growing community of like-minded people who love the strange and unexplained, all out Fortiana, it's a great place to be. I really appreciate the support so much, and the more of it that I get, the more content I can create for everyone out there. And to those members out there, you know who you are. Thank you so much for your continued support these past 5 years. And speaking of merch, again, don't forget to check out my shop. You can find it at strangeology.etsy.com. Links will be in the show notes if you're looking to pick up some Fortean, cryptid, paranormal, alien, conspiracy merch and gear. We've got it all. There's shirts, tank tops, long sleeves, sweatshirts, hoodies, stickers, magnets, prints, pins, and so much more. I've recently updated the shop with a number of new sticker designs. There's a whole bunch more that I'm trying to get to. Again, I also just added in a brand new Squonk shirt design that I will have also available at Squonkapalooza in a few weeks. So definitely check that out. And again, strangeology.etsy.com. I appreciate your support so much. All right, that's the show for today. Strangeology Beyond will be returning as soon as possible. So thank you again for hanging out. And as I always say, until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other and keep it strange.